from the beautiful Valley of Pahrump, which is, what is it, Logan?
Valley of the Dirt People.
And you live here too. We love it. And it's getting too hot to ride, but live from Pahrump, this is Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, everybody. How are you doing? You can't answer that question because all I can do is see you on the chat room, but I hope you're doing well. Things are getting better, and the only reason I know they're getting a lot better is because when I came back into town the other day, Logan, there was a line around the fireworks store. So things must be popping, as they say, huh? Yeah, I don't really know why fireworks are so important in these times, but... Oh, they don't sell them anywhere else. So we have those out here, and I think it was funny because I almost ran over a fireworks box when I was coming back from California out in the valley over by Dumont, and it was empty, of course. I mean, they'd already taken everything, probably stashed it all around their car in case they did get pulled over. But I'm sure they're just taking them back, to participate in some, rioting and looting that people are doing, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So, I don't like rioting and looting. Bad. So I handed Logan a book that we're going to talk about a little bit later, and his head has been down in that thing since I handed it to you, yeah?
Yeah.
Are you going to be an effective co-host tonight?
I hope so.
Okay. Oh, wait, I didn't turn your mic on. Look at... Remember how I told you why I wore these headphones today?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there. Logan, we brought Logan back. He's back. So I'm gonna get started by saying we need to thank KTM. Do you know how to thank KTM, Logan?
Yes.
Okay. Remember, it's Murrieta.
Yeah.
Okay, like
when I walked in, I'm like, why do I have a sudden thought of Murrieta?
Yeah, because you've got to say it. So go ahead. Let's do our KTM read.
Powered by a distinct ready-to-race mentality, KTM is the world's leading high-performance street and off-road sport motorcycle manufacturer, with North America headquarters based in Murrieta, California. Over the years, KTM has built a reputation as a fierce competitor on racetracks around the world, and the brand's remarkable global success is reflected in every product it develops and every move it makes.
Awesome. You know how much better you are at that since we started?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one was like pulling teeth, and now after a few times, it flows right off there. So I'd like to thank KTM for allowing us to be here. I'd also like to thank Climb. Climb is a producer of super awesome off-road and adventure and street bike riding gear. I didn't get to wear Climb gear today because I didn't ride today because it's a little bit hot. But if I would have been riding, I'd be wearing the Mojave gear, which is super vented, and then I would be as cool as possible because I like to be pretty cool. So we're gonna go straight to the first question there. That's what you get to do, and we'll work on. Also, like to thank Nate from DDC Sprockets. DDC Racing keeps my machines going forward, and they never wear out. So if you need some sprockets, go there. Shout out to BJ at We Went Fast. He actually, without knowing it, sponsored a segment tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about We Went Fast. And Logan, straight into the questions.
Greetings, Jimmy, and sidekicks / special guest.
That's you. He doesn't know who it is, but he just, because it's, last week you got abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
And then now you're back. So, okay.
First, thank you for providing useful information, reviews on it, all things related on dirt bikes. I listen to your YouTube channel while wrenching on my bikes and the T4.
That's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. So some people actually type the T4s out, or they type, 4 T's, or he has, that's the first time I've seen it that way. But
yeah.
Hey, you know what Heather said? Speaking of, having a hard time reading that stuff, she used to think, maybe Logan just doesn't read that. And then she stumbled on a lot of the stuff, and she's like, it's a lot harder than it seems. And I'm like, yeah, you should see the spelling on some of this stuff. So yeah, kudos to you, Logan.
Tech Talk Taco Tuesday episodes are educational. Questions. Recently, I've had to pull out my AAA card toe strap.
Yeah, so he's calling his AAA card his toe strap, which is, yeah, I agree.
And tow my 1913 KTM 450 XCW 20 miles back to the car. The bike felt like it had a flat, and symptoms got progressively worse throughout the day.
Okay, so we're gonna stop there. I'm gonna interrupt like I usually do. So he says the bike started feeling flat, like it was losing power, and the symptoms got worse. So right away, that to me is fuel delivery. So when your bike starts having problems, and especially when you're on your bike and it's not running right, and you give it gas and it kind of gets worse the more throttle you give it because it can't get enough fuel in there. You just think about it's like someone's choking down your, you're choking your fuel supply. You can't get it. And a lot of times if you're careful, you can nurse it back. But if you keep gassing it, whatever's plugging that thing up is getting more and more plugged up as more and more dirty stuff. It could be just a bad load of fuel. It could be years of, it needs to be serviced. It could be something in your hose, a hose line inside the tank might have cracked, a fuel filter might have cracked. There's lots of situations for that. But anyways, keep going.
This incident has me questioning what spare parts and tools a person should take for a FL bike ride.
FL.
FI?
FI bike ride. Yeah, fuel injected.
Oh, in the remotes of Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, and Idaho. Currently, I carry spare inline fuel filter, spare in-tank fuel filter. Take spare fuel injector, hex with a ball end to replace the fuel injector, spare fuel line clamps, spare O-rings, spare spark plug, hard copy of the wiring schematic diagram, miniature voltmeter with the connector probes, reading glasses, most important. Yes, I like to have the most probable failure mods covered, which lead to a lot of stuff. What do you recommend for spare parts and tools for the fuel-injected bike while riding in very remote areas?
It sounds like he has more stuff. He's carrying more stuff than I have in my shop. I mean, he's got it all. He had everything, I think, based on his description of the problem. He never told me what the problem was, but based on the description of it, I'm pretty sure he had all the stuff to fix it. Do I really want to go into the fuel tank and fix a fuel filter out on the trail? No. If I had that stuff, would I? Maybe, because there's a special crimp. You'd have to have the right hose clamps, but there's a crimped clamp holding the fuel filter on that particular bike in there. Then it's kind of you'd have to destroy it, and you wouldn't be able to clamp it back on there. And there's enough pressure where you do need a good hose clamp, so you'd have to make sure that you're capable of doing that. So I want to know why he towed it out if he had all that stuff. is my question, because at 20 miles, I think at that point I would maybe, it depends how easy the tow for 20 miles is. But isn't he asking how I would tow? Is he the one? There's a question there about how I would tow, or is the question keeps going right about towing?
Yeah.
Okay.
My towing system consists of 15 to 20 foot long, 1-inch webbing, a couple of carabiners, and soft loops. I form a bridle with the soft loops and connect the carabiner to it from the lead bike foot peg to run the webbing through the carabiner and wrap the existing excess webbing through once around the clutch grip. This works, but it's not pretty, and the webbing pulls the bar in one direction. Yep.
Do
you have a better towing system?
Absolutely. Foot peg to foot peg. That's and a couple of reasons for it. Just plain physics. And I was talking to somebody who is much smarter than me today, and I said, I know everything I need to know about physics. F equals ma. You know what that means?
F equals.
Okay, you're gonna get tasked tonight with some questions because there's a whole segment for you. But anyways, force equals mass times acceleration. But this is actually more about leverage and stuff like that. So the reason I tow foot peg to foot peg is it's low on the bike, and when you start bringing the tow rope up higher, it has more leverage to knock it down. So when stuff starts going wrong, and a lot of stuff goes wrong when you're towing, the best thing to go. So I would go from my. I try to do the foot peg on my bike. The one if I'm towing somebody, because my bike never breaks. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So my bike is the one that's towing the guy out. So mine is on the non-sprocket side, the non-sprocket and chain side. And I would like to tell you what side that is, but I don't know my left from my right. So it's on the side that doesn't have the chain and sprocket. So I think that's the right-hand side. Yes. Yeah. That's the brake side. And I had to think about it for a little while. And then it goes to their left side.
Okay.
So that way that we can keep that tow rope that is now in danger of getting wrapped up in wheels and all kinds of stuff. The guy from behind, and it's his responsibility to keep it A, tight, and B, out of my wheel, my rear wheel, and out of his front wheel. So it's hard on single track because I have to ride on one side of the single track and he has to ride on the other side of the single track, and there's lots of stuff to hit. But on dirt roads and stuff, it's generally not a problem. And so the way we do that is a lot of times I will actually tie the tie down or whatever. You know, I call it it's called a tie strap. So it's a tie down and a toe strap that's combined. It's in a little packet that I carry, and I have it most times with me. And I'll actually fix it solid to my bike so it won't come undone. But when we run it back there, we take it and over on the other bike's foot peg, we wrap it around so that it's not tied, and then you can lift your foot off. If something goes wrong, he can take his foot off the foot peg, and then it would just come disconnected, and then we don't eat stuff and die. So that's how we typically do the towing. It tends to pull the bikes better. They don't, it doesn't knock them over. When you start going to handlebars, unless you go to the center of the bar, you're on for a wild ride. So especially now with so much stuff like GPS units and weird stuffs in all of our, handlebars and with odometers and little computers and things, it's really difficult to run that toe strap up through the center of the bar, wrap it around, and then put it onto the grip so you can squeeze it and hang on to it. Because you always want to be able to let go. Because if somebody, especially the guy behind, tips over, you don't want to be dragging them for a little while. The other thing about when you're towing, the person that is pulling is the power, and the person that is being towed is the brakes. And the person that is pulling does not use the brakes. Because if they use the brakes and that line gets loose, bad things happen. It gets wrapped up in wheels and stuff like that. So the person that's behind needs to make sure that they always have a little bit of tension on that string. So they when you come to stop or something like that, they need to slow the bike down, the bikes down together. So that's the towing methodology that I like to use. And it's not pretty. Towing is difficult. So that's why I would have used all that stuff that he had to fix I'd love to know what's his name?
Todd Harmon.
Todd, I'd love to know what the problem was on that bike. I.e., was it a fuel filter plugged or plugged fuel injector, and did it take a load of bad gas to get it, or how did we get there? Yeah, so because I'm always kind of curious about how that stuff sort of happens and what your fix was with all those tools that you didn't use. So cool, good one. Let's see. Everybody's talking about what they're eating in the chat room. It must mean that we're doing really interesting radio here, right?
Yeah.
It's been suggested that you have a tow class.
A towing class. Yeah, I should just do a YouTube video. And I'll start it out with just all the crashes that happen. I'll just search the YouTubes for all the crashes that we do. Thanks, Janie, for keeping tabs on the thing. You're gonna replace George, and then he can go drink some more good tequila, like we are, right? Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. And I'd like to say thanks, Lisa. I saw Lisa in there, and I'm pretty sure that via Mason, that's how we got the really good stuff. And George says he's that guy. I don't know what they're talking about.
To get towed out.
To get towed out?
Yeah.
Or was it because he was like trying to cook at home?
No, to get towed out.
It's like a cooking class around here. Okay, Logan, what's the next question? We don't need to list off that guy's bikes, but it's from episode 61.
Yes. Jimmy, thanks for the discussing my question regarding KTM's recommended settings for the 690. I think for my moderate pace on moderate off-road terrain, I need to soften up the front end and will start with their sport settings and see what happens. Maybe similar in the back with increased rebound dampening to eliminate hop.
Okay, so we talked about his KTM 690, and I never really got an answer about that. Whether or not I guess I didn't dig deep enough to find out whether those settings were kind of a misprint. He was curious about it, but I tell people, like, don't be afraid to play with those clickers. Find out where they're at. Find out where the stock setting or where the setting you have them in is at, and then play with them to find out what you're trying to do. Because sometimes, and especially with forks, a lot of times people say my fork is harsh because they have it set too soft, which is really strange. Because then it's packing essentially. It's staying stiff, and by making it a little stiffer, it'll actually hold it up in the stroke, which is not. It's not common sense. It's like doesn't make sense to stiffen it up to make it softer. But there's little things like that. So a lot of times just playing with it and getting a feel. And even if you make it worse when you're playing with it, you're going to learn, like, oh, I don't like that, or I don't like that feel. But one change at a time. Only do rebound by itself. Try rebound more, rebound less. Does that better. Then try compression more, compression less. Maybe try, the attitude of the bike, using the ride height and all the stuff you hear us talking about that maybe kind of foreign terms to you if you're new to the show or new to riding. It's all this stuff will kind of come around, and that's what we kind of aim to do here, is explain these things to you. So don't be afraid of doing your own bit of little testing, because just because I say that I like it doesn't mean that you will like it. It's everybody kind of has a personal opinion and a personal feel, and I think this is where he's going to go. I did a little pre-reading on this question. He's going to go into, because I said, "Oh, KTM 690, you're never going to be happy," or Husky 701. It's a bike. It's just it's one of those bikes I'm not never been a big fan of. I actually need to ride the new one because they said they've made it a lot better, but I have to ride it to be able to answer that question. Continue.
I know you are not a fan of this bike, and I can appreciate your reasoning. You said the 690 fares far better on street than the 2015 FE350 Husky, and is significantly easier to handle off-road than my 2012 R1200 GS, which wears me out after a while. If I was younger, taller, and had more skill, I am sure my opinion would be different.
No. Your opinion there on where he just placed those bikes is spot on. And I don't care if you're younger, taller, or whatever. What else do you want to be?
Better skill.
Better skill. It wouldn't change the placing or what those bikes are do. Maybe you could do a little bit more with each one of them outside of their target range, but hey, if you have those three bikes, you're way better than most people that just have a 690 and now I'm going to do everything on it. That's a tough row to hoe. At that point, you should just get a KTM 500 or dream about a Husaberg 570. You ever ridden one, Logan?
No.
I saw a guy, friend of mine on the internet, posted a picture of a Husaberg. And the thing is, you look at all those 70-degree bikes and they all look the same. And it didn't have, is that kind of like racist of me to say they all look the same, the bikes?
I think a little.
A little bit.
But-
Okay, so they all look the same, and it didn't have a number anyplace on it, and they all look so much the same. I couldn't tell which one it was, and so it was a 390, not the 570, and I'm like, oh, you'll never know what the power is like. But no, it's good that they made those things for girls.
Don't look at me in that tone of voice.
No, I don't. You were almost co-host. You know the rule is you walk in last, you might be co-host.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So okay, keep going, Logan.
The new Tenere or KTM.
Oh, you got to
790.
do the part where he talks about how he's going to come and take my class. That was the whole reason I put that thing in there. At 60 years old?
Not there.
You're not there?
No.
Oh, we're not there yet. Oh, I cut you off.
The 790 might be better overall for lightweight adventure, and I will definitely give those considerations at some point. At 63 years old, still lots of opportunities to improve my skill. Your riding school on my radar once we are released from COVID prison in cooler Nevada weather. By the way, last name is pronounced Van Houte, like out.
Can you imagine that we actually mispronounced the name on this show?
Wow.
We thought it was funny because we joked at the end of the show. It's like, hey, we had a show where we didn't have all these crazy names, and we thought we got them all right. You can't even pronounce his phonetic spelling of that.
Hout.
Hout. Yeah. Well, I think he did. Okay.
Hout.
Yeah.
Not the first 3 times.
Yeah. So, what was his name again? It was was it Dan? Doug?
I don't know. All it says is Van
Oh,
Hout.
we didn't. Maybe it's on the first part of the page. I don't know. I cut it off. And bad guy that's in charge of that sheet of paper. But hey, sorry for slaughtering your name. Sorry for beating up on your awesome bike choice. You know, having that many bikes, and maybe I did a bad job answering the question. But you're getting what you're paying for here at Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Next question, Logan.
Doug Derby.
Doug Derby. That's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I like the topic listing on the episode picture. Good idea.
Blame Trevor. Yeah, Trevor did that. Trevor said, man, that picture you put for Tech Talk Taco Tuesday looks so, I don't know. He doesn't say bad things, but he probably said something bad. And then he didn't just say something, he fixed the problem. So he made that new logo and design. So that's something else that the person that's going to have to edit and upload these things has to learn how to do now.
Joe Doyle. That girl can read a question, Jimmy, like nobody I've ever seen thus far. Better keep her on.
That's mean to you.
A little.
That was mean to you. Yeah. No, and he's not talking about you being a girl. He's talking about my wife, Heather, who was on the show last week. So Heather, since Logan got abducted by aliens, Heather had to sit into the show, and so she did pretty good at reading the questions. But she, like we talked about earlier, she said it was a little bit more difficult than you'd think. So if anybody wants to come in and co-host on the show and thinks they can ace these questions, game on. Hey, are you
Try it.
Are you squinting at that?
Yes.
That next type, and it's funny because you laughed when that guy said he wants to carry reading glasses in his fanny pack.
A little.
Okay, what's the next one?
P. Guarded 26. I very much agree with Heather on bicycles and motorcycles. There should be multiple mount positions in the upper triple clamp. Multiple mount positions in the foot pegs and seat pans that can be adjustable. She is absolutely right.
That's what I always tell her. It's like
She's absolutely right.
that's like life lessons, Logan. When you're old, like old people, you get married and you have a wife, and they're always right. That's why in that show I also told her all the motorcycles were hers, and they were all custom set up for her, and everything. It was perfect. What was the question? Oh, motorcycles should all have adjustable handlebars. KTMs have those. Actually, a few different brands have adjustable handlebars. Foot pegs, not so much. There are Kawasaki's actually have adjustable foot peg positions on some of their bikes, and you can buy different foot pegs. And then seats, on some of the adventure bikes and stuff, they had adjustable height seats. BMW used to have that, so there's a lot of that out there. But they I don't remember what the question is. Well, you're laughing at somebody. Did somebody say
George?
Something? Victor's in Facebook jail again.
Yeah.
So he's translating for him. Let me see if I can get this one. Would the XR650R or KTM 690 have better torque to plow through the riders? And I'd like to recommend a suspension setup and tires for plowing through riders. No, that's all of a sudden you're just as bad as them. Everybody just needs to go home. Now I'm all about staying home. Just stay home. Don't do bad things. Be good people. Be just good. Just be good humans. And Heather, you missed Heather. Heather's on. She's back there. We were saying nice things to you because you were always right. Next question.
Stuart James.
We're blowing through these tonight, aren't we? Not even messing around.
2
because
pages.
we got to get to some special segments.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
From Pennsylvania here. Other than the KTM 390 Adventure, is there another adventure or dual sport bikes you can recommend for a beginner rider over the then DRZ 400 or CRF 350L? The reality is I'd be riding this in the city, urban environment for commuting, and then 2 to 3 times a month, about 30 miles away on fire roads. They are talking about a possible 490 Duke in a 2-cylinder. Is there any talk about that platform for an adventure bike?
There is absolutely, without question, no other better choice than the KTM 390 as a mid-sized adventure bike because KTM sponsors this show. So what else would I say? Right?
Yes.
No. There's tons of options. It's actually, and the cool thing about that bike, so the bikes we've tested are a Honda 250L. You rode that?
Yes.
You rode KTM 390 a little bit?
Yes.
Actually, you
I
commute.
trail rode.
Oh, you did?
A little.
You commuted on it.
Yes.
Yeah. We talk about the KTM 350. There's a lot. There's so many. There's so much in there. And the rumors of a twin cylinder Duke or a 490 or something like that are a little maybe over exaggerated. I would just expect to see something that was maybe bigger than a 390 the next time around. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Because that's what they always do. They always start with like a lower displacement and then they bring a bigger one out. Because then you have to have you always have to get the better one, the bigger one. But there's so much different things, and I don't think you can really go too wrong if you're new and you're in that market, but you can learn about different things if you have the potential to. I mean, those bikes are inexpensive, and so they're not going to lose a ton of value, even if you buy a brand new one. And so you could buy like a new KTM 390, ride it for, a year, 6 months, whatever it is, and then say, hey, I think I'd like this better. And maybe when you're out riding, you're going to ride with some buddies that have a Honda, a CB500X, which I have not ridden, so I can't, or at least a new one, or all these different bikes. And maybe you find out that I didn't really want an adventure bike. I really wanted a dirt bike, or I don't really like this off-road stuff. I need a Harley. Right, Janie?
Absolutely. Everyone needs a Harley.
Everyone needs a Harley.
But you don't get one till I die.
Yeah, you're not leaving that to me. I told you I don't want it. I'll just do burnouts on it. Heather gets it. So, no, a wide open space for lots of cool bikes. So don't. You're not going to go wrong. Read some reviews. See what different people say. Hopefully, you'll find somebody like us that you can trust, and will give you a good, honest evaluation, and then you're on your way. So, yeah.
Yeah.
YZ125.
John Lorenzo, how much did you weigh in your riding gear?
That's a personal question. Really? He wants to know how much I weigh in my riding gear. Well, wasn't that bike singing enough for you? Did you watch that video? So if you're somebody needs to link that, George, that we have the YouTube video. I don't think I've done anything with it on the website just yet, but I'm doing a Instagram post right now live because it's for the segment. So you should follow at Dirt Bike Test on Instagram. There's a video of me doing kind of like, we call it a ride test. Instead of a test ride, we call it a ride test. You can't play it in here because it requires sound. And if you play it, then you're going to hear a bike singing. That YZ125 was singing most of the time. And then me trying to tell you how it works, which is actually pretty difficult. I've never done that before, but I do have a little bit more respect for some of the quote presenters that, they'll talk while they're, driving or riding. And I actually had to really play with the microphone position, not only for sound, but also so you didn't hear me breathe. And I don't really breathe that hard because, I when I ride, it's like magical. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't use any energy. But it pissed me off when I started hearing myself breathe hard. And when you're trying to talk and you realize that you need to breathe and you don't, even I even found when I first started in this podcast, I'd keep talking and keep talking. I'm like, so to get that right and to work on it took a little bit. But you know why he's asking how much I weigh? Because I actually said I'm pretty heavy for that bike, mostly for the suspension springs.
Yeah,
I am, right? What do you think I weigh in my gear, Logan? That's a personal question, but go ahead.
200?
Yeah, I usually say 200, 205 in my gear. Yeah. I can actually run a little bit rich, go a little bit over that for sure sometimes, and I can lean out a little bit sometimes too.
Definitely.
I'm blaming it on the COVID, because I can't go out and do running or I've been doing my sit-ups or my push-ups, and it's basically because I'm lazy. That's it. So. We'll just say I was a solid 210 when I was riding that YZ125 out of that video. What's his name?
John Lorenzo.
John Lorenzo. So how much do you weigh, John? It's going to turn into a suspension question after that, but okay, go ahead.
KTM 300 test. Kick. I rode a 2019 6-day model. Awesome bike with great power everywhere. 2020 is better. Get one.
Couldn't agree more. He's just yeah. I think, yeah. Next.
Thomas Lynch. This seems more about the tuner and fuel injection issues. I guess I'm not thrilled with all the temperamental issues. KTM get this down, please. That money should work for us. Aftermarket tuners thanks for the review.
That's what Heather was talking about. So that guy says that the bike is temperamental and all these tuners and WH is what the hell. That's what he was saying. We play around with that stuff. You do not need to do those things, but we do it so that we know better how the bike works. And we don't just do it in secret and come and say, oh, the bike's perfect. We do it and we talk about how we did and what we did. And if you watch those videos and listen to how we explain what we did and what happened, and remember that video was done from the day the bike was released until about 2 weeks later when I had to give it back. And so we didn't have a ton of time with it, but afterwards I went and got my hands on one and played around with it a little bit more to test it further to make sure that everything that we said in that video is correct, which it is. And so I didn't have to go in there and make some kind of corrections and stuff. But you should listen to the first guy. He said just go buy one. Actually, I got another email from somebody that said he said thanks, I'm sold.
Don Kyrax. You sold me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what he said. So listen to Don. Just get sold.
Hi and thanks. I have a question about which bike to buy. I am a woods rider, intermediate B class. I am 6 foot, 220 pounds, and currently ride a 2020 KTM 300 ECW TPI. I want to buy a bike for track days at MX tracks, mostly just to practice, not looking to race. I have never ridden a MX bike, only woods bikes, and only 2 strokes. I am not sure which bike to get, 250, 450, 250, 2-stroke. Thanks for reply, John.
So it's an off-road guy, wants to get into the track riding.
Yeah.
What do you think he should ride?
Maybe 450, 250.
Because of his size and weight.
Yes.
Yeah, bigger guy. Yeah, I that's what I picked too. So you should start answering all these emails. I don't want to do it anymore. You just get the emails and you go on the YouTubes and all the different things and just I don't you've figured me out. It's pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I told him I actually said, hey, maybe a 350 might be, a good choice even because it has the torque. You start going down to 250F and it's really kind of high strung and definitely not a 125 guy at that size. Although I'm not exactly 220.
Could pull it.
You could pull it. Yeah. Just twist that throttle, right, Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying, 350 or 450. And the funny thing is he could probably buy a bike that's almost 10 years old. I said like any fuel injected current motocross bike, they haven't changed enough for someone in that realm to really notice all the changes, to really feel like that little bit of weight loss feel that they did, or that little bit of handling characteristic they did. So you can go back 2 or 3 generations on some of these bikes, whether it's a Honda or a KTM or a Kawasaki.
Yeah.
And they're all good. And so you can actually find something that's relatively inexpensive, get it serviced, get the suspension serviced and sprung for you, which is pretty important.
Yes.
I didn't actually tell him to do that. I should have told him to get the suspension sprung for him, get it set up for you, and then go ride it. And then if that's something you really like doing, you can either, modify that bike to make it work a little bit better for what you're looking for, and or say, hey, I do kind of like this track riding stuff. Or maybe you say, these track bikes are not all they're cracked up to be. Then you would maybe step into the realm of like an XC, like a KTM XC bike or a Yamaha FX type bike. Or know that, hey, maybe I can find at this point, one bike that'll do it all. Maybe I like this stiffer, more aggressive setting, and I can use this bike to both track day and do my trail riding, because they, the bikes really blend quite well. Although I would never take a motocross bike and ride it on the trail. But some people definitely do that. And when if you find this XC, which is like this perfect blend kind of both things, I think it's a good thing. So for anybody that's watching right now, I posted up on Dirt Bike Test on both our Instagram and our Facebook page, and it's going to be hard for all you people that are doing audio, listen to this a podcast, to see. But I posted up a picture that I got from BJ at We Went Fast. It's the same as your shirt, isn't it? So Logan's wearing a shirt right now that has 6 icons on it, and I was tasked to quiz the kid and see if he can name the riders on the Moto Icons t-shirt. So I'm going to hold this up in front of the camera as well. And so there's 6 icons, and one of them, it's funny because it took me a little while. When I first saw him, I'm like, what? I didn't get it, but we'll just kind of talk through it. What's that first one look like, Logan? Describe what you're seeing.
Afro.
Okay. So who in the motocross world, and this is probably guys that were racing before you were born.
Yeah.
But you have a little bit of moto history in you. You know some stuff. A little bit. Who would that be? He has a podcast actually with this guy here. You know which one that guy is?
The The goat.
Yeah.
Okay, Ricky Carmichael.
Okay, so you got one right there. So
Yeah.
there's a picture of a goat. It's on your shirt too. Actually, the order is different on your shirt.
It's
So do you know who the
reverse.
the afro is? Who's that?
I don't think I know.
You don't know. Yep. Let's see if the room is gonna chime into this thing here. It takes a little bit of second. So any other ones that you might know on this, just out of curiosity?
Just the goat.
Just the goat. That was the only one. So there's a picture of a kind of a graduation cap and some glasses.
Yes.
That's one of them. No, it's not Crazy Nate. There is a picture of like a goggles with a crown on it. You have any idea what that one is?
Goggles with crown.
Yeah, with a crown. What would a crown symbolize?
Like royalty winning.
Right? Okay. So you know who this person is. I'm sure of it. I'm pretty sure. So you think about it. It's like, what is a crown? A crown would be a king.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they talk about like, famous motocross, supercross guys, who's the king?
Oh.
It's not Travis Pastrana, who's laying face down on the table right now. He's got the bike upside down on him. That's what I look like when I did that nose wheelie. You know who that is? Who the king is? 7-time Supercross champion, and not backyard Supercross champion, because that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not sure.
King.
Yeah.
No.
Oh wait, you're looking. You guys are over there looking at the internet because you don't know anything about motorcycles. Yeah, yeah. Janie knows a little bit, but probably not about dirt bikes. So yeah, Jeremy McGrath. I don't remember your name.
Heather says have low.
Evan. Yeah, Evan.
Show the shirt.
Yeah, so show the shirt. So if you're looking for this, you're gonna have to go back to like June 2nd, and you're gonna have to look at the Dirt Bike Test Instagram or the Dirt Bike Test Facebook, because this is great audio here. Or you can go to We Went Fast and get one of the shirts. So the other one, what is that symbol, Logan? What is it? Do you know what that symbol is? You'd see it on the weather.
Hurricane.
Hurricane. Who's the hurricane? You're never gonna get it. This guy is probably one of my absolute favorite riders. Let's see if it's kind of gonna pop up. Yeah, people are. You're losing fans in the chat room right now. No, hey, you don't need to know stuff. So, and then what's this over here? I'm gonna give people a chance to kind of chime in. What's that thing?
It's a bomb.
It's a bomb. Yeah. And so it's funny because I'm thinking about this one, and I'm torn on that as being it's definitely the hurricane. It's definitely What'd you say?
Katrina.
Hurricane? No, it's not Hurricane Katrina. It's I'm pretty sure it's Bob Hanna. Hurricane Bob Hanna. Yeah. So the Dirt Bike Test logo, the shirt I wear with the bolt on it, that was actually Bob's symbol. Was that lightning bolt was his thing. He had lightning bolts. It was like when I was a kid, when I was your age, like his helmet had these 2 lightning bolts coming off, and like I'm pretty sure I went to a company called 09, which is a BMX company. They made numbers 09, and I bought lightning bolts for my helmet.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to have that look, that cool thing, and we stole it
Yeah.
when we did Dirt Bike Test. Just kind of like Honda stole our logo for the HRC thing.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that?
Oh.
Oh, it's good that you know that now. You can tell everybody. So the bomb and the bomb is Mark Barnett, the bomber. That's what his name was. And I always liked Mark Barnett. Actually, I liked him even more when I finally got to meet him in person. The guy's just super awesome guy. I just remember there's this one picture in the magazine where I cut the magazine out, the page, and he was wearing these Moto X Fox boots. Actually, it wasn't just Fox; it was Moto X Fox, and it had the fox head on the boot and everything like that. And
Yeah.
I just thought those things were the coolest the coolest things ever, because it was just instead of just being a boot with a metal plate on it or something, it had a logo, and I thought, oh, that was cool. But
Yeah.
the Bomber had the Moto X Fox boots riding a Works Suzuki RM125. And so the one on this, so this would be that logo up on top. It's the graduation cap with the glasses, which is the Professor. You know who that is?
No.
David Bailey. So he was also all these guys are all quite a bit before your time.
Yeah.
So kind of a cool thing. So if you're interested in moto history, and then I gave you that book, hold that book up. It's called Grand Prix Motocross 1972, and it's a book about it says right here, the 1972 World Championship season. And it's a book that BJ sells through his website. I think he only has a limited amount of copies of them, and it was a book by Terry Pratt. It was a lot of photography and stories. And what did you learn and see in there, Logan? Besides looking at all the girls. Because there's a lot of girls from the old times. They're probably your grandmother could be photographed in that book right now easily. maybe great grandmother, and she was one of those young girls in the photos.
I think one of the things I learned was how different every bike was. Like, there was no set what side the exhaust went on, what side the Kickstarter went on.
They didn't know what worked.
No.
It would just make a motorcycle. And a lot of those were made, in Eastern European countries. And I mean, it wasn't all coming out of just Japan or Austria. It was a lot of different stuff. And they were trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
So, pretty interesting book. I mean, it's, and some of the stories I have not had a chance to read that. I think I may have read it when I worked at Cycle World magazine. I think there was a copy of that someplace in our archives, and I'm sure at some point or another I sat down and at least looked at the pictures. But there's definitely some good stories about just how stuff was. And this is pre-Americans going over and racing in, at the time, what was motocross, because we weren't over there yet. Those guys were coming over to America and just smoking us, as riders. So I think, there's DeCoster's in there. So you know who Roger DeCoster is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he was a kid then.
Yeah.
Or actually he was a little bit older back then, but he was one of the guys. So pretty cool. It's interesting to get a little bit of history and stuff. So let's see, I'm going to read BJ's note here. So the book, it's $40, and there's a story behind it that you can read on BJ's website. We Went Fast. It's basically the curious life of Terry Pratt, and so if you search that out on We Went Fast, I'm sure you'll find something, learn a little bit of history, see some really interesting motorcycles. What did you say about the KTM when you saw it in there?
Oh, I didn't think that it was made back then.
Yeah,
I thought it was older. Or younger.
Newer, yeah. The company was young. Yeah, no, they were back there. But back then, we didn't have KTMs in the United States. We had Pentons, And that Husky, it's not built by KTM.
No.
That's built in Sweden. So that's some see the CZs in there? Where do you think the CZ was made?
Doubt Japan.
That's a good guess. Czechoslovakia. Back then, when that was a country. Yeah, not a country anymore. It's two different places. Split it in half. So, and Craig, the bikes most of those bikes, in fact, almost every one of them had two rear shocks. Yeah, talk about how ripped off you guys are getting these days with only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much better when you had two air-cooled drum brakes. Couldn't decide which side to put the Kickstarter or the chain on. See, that's why.
Yeah.
That's when I go back to, like I talked earlier, like I don't know which side the chain's on, because I actually rode Huskies that had the chain on the wrong side and kickstarted. Actually, Heather, who was doing what you were doing last week right there, she started on a bike that had a Kickstarter on the wrong side. It was on the left side, and now you don't even know what a Kickstarter is. When was the last time you kickstarted a bike? Well, you're 125, right?
125, 85.
Yep. So, It's $125 on Amazon, George says, but you can get it a lot cheaper on through BJ. We Went Fast. I don't get a cut of that, but that's okay. we're not here to make money as everybody knows. But if you'd like some sponsors, we got some big things coming up. So if you and there's only going to be a limited amount of opportunity in the first round. So if you're one of those guys in some marketing department at some company that wants to get on board with us, better put aside a little chunk for us, because best investment you'll ever make, I hope. What else is new, Logan? Any other questions? We still plowing through those things?
Yeah, I think 3, 4.
Okay, what's next?
Hey Jimmy, I have a question about the front brake rotor on my bike. I purchased a brand new 2019 Wr250r.
Should have bought a KTM.
Back in February, and the two-piece front brake rotor is quite loose. You can grab the rotor and push/pull it fore and aft, and it was about 2 to 3 millimeters of slop in it. I've inspected other brand new Yamahas on the showroom floor, and they almost have zero play in them. I have bought a couple other brand new Yamaha 450s in the past, and they did not have any slop in the rotor. It seems as though the bobbins were not compressed enough when they made my rotor. What is your opinion? I've looked into aftermarket rotors and have yet to find one that is compatible with the OEM's speedometer sensor disc that is supposed to attach to the rotor. Any help would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so there are definitely replacement rotors and stuff, and there's a production tolerance. So what he's talking about is that bike has a floating disc rotor, which is pretty common these days, and the bobbin pins are how they attach the floating part between the two things. So sometimes when you grab the brake and you rock it back and forth, all those pins tend to move, and so there's a production tolerance. And what I said was, I told him, I said, hey, at that point you're going to kind of have to check the manual to actually see if it's out of spec or something is indeed wrong. And like he said, it's a new bike, so he noticed it right away. And then he went to the dealer and kind of checked some other ones. A lot of times those break in and they get they're tight right in the beginning, and then they kind of get loose. And maybe his is definitely on the looser side of the spectrum. I know there was times on certain bikes when we were replacing rotors, going from floating to non-floating for a certain brake feel, and we were going from solid rotors to floating rotors for a certain feel. It was just it kind of depended on what you were looking for. They definitely give a different, a different feel at the lever, and then they're also a little, more susceptible to production tolerances because they can move around, and sometimes when your disc gets damaged, they don't get dented as easy because they tend to float or move around when they get hit by rocks and things. So there's advantages and disadvantages like everything. So I to that specific case, I don't know that it's an issue. I haven't really heard about that before. But yeah, I would say that I'm sure there's a spec. If you look at manuals, there's always like minimum thickness and stuff, punched or stamped into them. But in the manual, they'll probably, for the floating characteristic of that rotor, they'll give you some sort of a spec you can check out. And so I would say if you really want to know, I would do that. And if it's outside of spec, then I would do something about it. So, you think I answered his question?
I think so.
Should have just bought a KTM, right?
Maybe.
Well,
yes.
you have a Yamaha and a KTM. Which one should you have bought? You're completely unbiased, right? You have one of each.
Yes, but one's a motocross. Actually, they're both motocross bikes, but one's 125 and one's 250.
Okay.
So.
So you should have just bought a KTM?
Sure.
Right. Hey, did you wash your bike?
Not yet.
Oh. You did. Oh, Logan. Oh, man. Okay, next question.
Jeff Franklin, Husky 501, YouTuber, dirt bike test. If the 501s had the maintenance schedule of, say, the Yamaha Wr250r, I would probably buy 2.
If the Husky 501 had the maintenance of a Yamaha WR250R, which and that's the kind of the dual sport one. You've never seen one of those over here. I mean, we've had them in the class before. It's kind of it's weird. It's like the street bike version of the Yamaha WR, and it has long. That's what it's kind of known for. It has long service intervals, and which it's probably more than like a competition bike because it's heavier and it doesn't have the performance and all the other stuff. But if you had that, you wouldn't have to buy 2. You'd only need 1. So that comment doesn't really make sense. Why would you buy 2 of them? One for me? Maybe one for Heather? I don't know. I'm not sure what that comment really means, Jeff Franklin. Why would, if it gets more durability, why would you buy more? You don't need it. You don't need 1. I mean, they don't break anyways. I mean, the only ones that break are the ones you see on the internets. And usually that's not even really the one that broke. That's the guy who saw the post from some other guy in some other country that reposted it and said it was his. And yeah, that's how it works.
J Man as Nans.
Let me read that one name. Geminanza one. Yeah. Geminanza. It's Mex-Italian.
Fantastic review. Thank you. And even though I rode dirt bikes as a kid in the Midwest, but I am now 59 and I have been feeling the pull to get a 500cc or less dual sport. I like the 2019 or newer Honda CB500X with a Rally Rad kit for being able to ride both pavement and forest roads / dirt / mountain roads / easy trail. But I will definitely check this one out. A lot of bang for the buck, to be sure. Thanks for the clear explanation on everything. Although at one time I rode, I considered myself as a beginner, and you did not talk beyond what I could understand. Great job.
Well, thanks. Jamaria's one. I don't usually talk down to people that much unless, I don't know. The beginner. So the beginner riders, so you're new or you're getting back into this or you don't understand the lingo and everything. And, it's intimidating. And I was involved with an event that a good friend of mine put on called the Noobs Rally. And it was when he first started, he actually came to my class. There was a guy that came to my class and he's like, I have all these questions. I just don't even know where to go to get them answered. And he came to the class and he found out that even though I was a pro racer, I could answer his questions and I didn't talk down to him. But he says most of the people I talk to would never come up and talk to you. And yeah, there's times when it's good to talk, come and talk to a pro racer or a guy. Probably not before he's getting ready to go to the starting line of an event or when he's under a lot of pressure to do something, perform in a demo or whatever it is. But or maybe not when he's eating dinner with his wife by himself in the corner. There's good times and bad times to approach it. So, anyways, he started this event called the Noobs Rally, and it was a rider gathering that they did where he just said, "Hey, let's tell people that are maybe not so certain about what they could do, or didn't know the questions asked, or didn't really know what was the right thing or the wrong thing, and let's get them someplace where we can all kind of talk about it. Maybe we'll have a couple of guys that know this stuff show up." And I was one of the guys that got the invite because Joel called me. And I learned a ton from going to that, to see people that, and now from doing a lot of teaching with the schools and stuff, you learn that there's just certain things that you don't even know what questions to ask. You don't even know that there is a question to ask and where to get started and how, what's the lingo or the terminology, or you're like it's foreign. Like, so when I go learn new things or do other stuff, especially, with cars or trucks, off-road trucks and rock crawling and UTVs, I don't know the first thing about it. I don't even know, is that a drive shaft, or is it an axle shaft, or a upper arm, lower arm? There's all these terminologies for things, and I don't even know what to. I kind of understand. I feel how things are working, but I don't even know what to call the thing that's working, or the thing that I broke. I broke this thing. What is it? So I know the feeling. I think we all do when you're, and that's the idea, is we're trying to kind of, create an environment where we can, I try to do this when we do our product tests, when we do they may be super detailed and we may be talking way above your head at some point or other. We're going to try to break it back down and say, this is how this works. This, this thing works like that, and try to make it so it's, you understand and you can, get a feel for it. At the same time, if you're experienced or you really want to know how it works and, you understand, you can dive deep into the technology or the what would it be? I'm a lost for words, which is really kind of strange. Probably because I'm not talking about myself now. Don't laugh at me, Logan. I can replace you really quick. Janie's ready to come on board and read the questions. So,
I'll have to get my glasses.
Yeah, glasses. We all need to start carrying glasses. But no, we're trying to, and right now, especially with what's been going on in the world, there's a lot of more people that are getting out, and there's a lot of people that are buying dirt bikes. There's a lot of people buying mini bikes. They're getting into this. It's a sport that you can do without other people and not in groups, and so I've been seeing a big increase in the amount of questions about things. And a lot of the bikes, you buy a bike, it's actually really good, but then you start going search around, and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, everybody says I have to do this and I have to do that, and I have to get different tires, I have to get a different chain and sprocket. Is this worn out? Do I have to check the valves every 6 hours? And kind of ridiculous questions. But for somebody that's experienced, has been in it for a while, but then you're just going strictly off the owner's manual, which may or may not have been written by lawyers. So how often do you check the valves in your KTM 125?
Haven't yet.
You haven't checked the valves?
No.
You understand that it doesn't have valves, right? You need to start practicing your mechanicsmanship. See, I tripped you up there, Logan.
Yes.
Caught you off guard. You're over there playing on the Facebooks. Okay. Did we miss any questions in the chat room that you know of? Did you monitor that? It's tough doing two things at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we didn't miss any questions.
Not.
Well, no, that's not true.
That's not true. Uh-oh.
George says, Logan, did you get your foul plug thing sorted?
Yeah, what happened? Oh, the plug fouling on the KTM 125.
You're supposed to tell us.
I said, I think we used the oil previous of Motor-X, like Yamalube, and I think it was that on the head.
So was the oil mixed in the gas improperly, or you think it was actually the oil?
Not necessarily the oil, but like the jets plus
the ratio.
Yes. No.
Because I heard you take off that one day. You left out of here, and it was all boop 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 boop.
Pipe runs hot.
The pipe runs hot.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like it takes when the pipe is hot, it runs good. When it's cold, it sounds like that.
Yeah. So the bike wasn't warmed up.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's actually the whole motor. Believe it or not, it's the whole motor. It does help having a hot pipe on a two-stroke.
Yes.
There is some theory behind, that just because the when the gases go in there, they don't cool as quickly. But
yeah.
So there's something to that. There's also something to having a cold pipe. So
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. But so your bike wasn't totally warmed up. And then it also, so in a 2-stroke, when your oil is in there and it doesn't all burn and it just sits in your motor and your bike is parked along the side of my garage dirty for a couple days, that oil, it doesn't just hang out where it was. It kind of like it seeps and runs down in the motor and it pools up down in the bottom of the crankcase. It just kind of sits down there. And you think about, you've had to wipe oil off of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not easy to clean off and it sits there. Well, that oil can sit down there even when the motor's running. And even with the turbulence that's going on inside that motor, it kind of sits down there until you give it the beans.
Yeah.
And you give it the beans and there's enough turbulence and air and gas and stuff spinning around there that it disturbs that. It upsets the oil. The oil actually starts spreading out and then it starts vaporizing. Maybe not in the nice fine mist that it should be. It's more like, big chunks or bubbles.
Uh-huh.
And that's the boop, boop, boop. Because there's all of a sudden, it's like, imagine you have a blood clot. You might be familiar with this. And it's just kind of hanging out there. It's not doing anything bad. And you stir it up and it goes up and it plugs something up. That's bogging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why sometimes when guys don't rev out their 2-strokes, they don't clean, quote, we call it cleaning it out.
Yes.
It pools up, that oil kind of sits in there. And that's why everybody has different oil ratios they run at. I mean, when I started racing 80s, we ran our oil at 20-1.
Yeah. And
my bike smoked and it fouled plugs and it didn't clean out very easily. But then, somebody told us, hey, you should go to 32-1. And of course, it always came with use this oil. Because oil is kind of like religion, kind of like tires and oil, what oil you run. So they would say, oh, you should run this and that, this oil and that. Oh, you should run this race gas at this mix with this oil. Everybody's got their setup. And but you depending on the riding you're doing, you would adjust your fuel to gas ratio. And what do you mix at?
Depending, it's what the manual says.
What the manual says?
I believe it's 50-1.
51. It's actually, I think on KTM's it's 60, but so who mixes your gas?
Me and my dad.
You and your dad. So how many ounces to the gallon do you put in? Or cc's to the gallon. What do you do?
Oh, ounces. I think we do. Oh, it's a ratio, right?
You use the ratio, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And did somebody put a mark on a pen there and you fill it up there and put that in a certain amount of gallons, or?
It's already on there.
It's already on there.
Yeah.
You got it all figured out. Yeah. So you didn't mess up on that. You didn't add a little extra oil on accident.
No.
You ever seen me put oil in gas?
Yes.
It's kind of sketchy, isn't it?
Yes.
Have you seen my bike C's yet?
No.
No. Yeah. Years of experience, my friend. So, but anyways, so the next time I see that KTM 125, I want it to be spotless. I want you to wash it. I want to make sure the chain's lubed. I want that thing to be. We need to go do some sand motos in the heat.
Okay.
I got a YZ 125.
Yeah.
I'll smoke you.
I know you will.
At 200 and whatever pounds I am. Yeah. Because you're flyweight. You're perfect weight for a 125. Maybe not big enough. Maybe not strong enough. But you're the good weight for it. Because, they told me 6 pounds is a horsepower.
Yeah.
And 6 to 8 pounds is a horsepower. It robs a horsepower out of the bike. So you've got like 20 horsepower on me or something. And those bikes, that's like half. You double the power.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go moto down and see who's got the beans, right? Your dad said that was kind of funny, what I just said to you. Yeah, I can spin anything around backwards, Jimmy. You got to whip that kid into shape, because if that bike was if my KTM 125 were that dirty, I wouldn't be riding it. I'd be getting my ass kicked. So, okay. Hey, thanks for everybody for joining in and being part of the show on the chat room and stuff. Hopefully you learned something in this episode. That's our goal. We've got some big plans. Hopefully we've got some good sponsors and stuff coming on in the near future. Thanks, BJ, for giving us that little bit of history. We actually, I actually talked to BJ today. He's going to release a story on Danny Hamill. I don't know if it's tomorrow. It's on the 25th, unfortunately, the 25th anniversary of his death. I partnered with Danny when we were both young and up and coming riders, and it was kind of interesting to kind of bring back some of those memories and talk about some of the good times we had together. And so he's on the history side of things, and it's really good that there's guys that really dive deep into that and give you some good content. You can, if you're listening to this show on a podcast, well, sorry for us talking about pictures, but share that stuff. Give us some thumbs up or likes or whatever they do in that podcast world. We're growing there. On the YouTubes, it's probably a couple days later than this. Throw up comments there, ask questions. We respond to most of those, talk about them in our next episode, usually let you know that which episode we're replying to your question on. And then, of course, on the Facebooks, you're probably live or doing whatever you're doing. And kind of cool to see everybody out there and interact with people. Always check us out at www.dirtbiketest.com. And if you have a question, I dare you to put it into the search box, and it'll pick up on those words. And more than likely, we will have some information up there that might answer your question at least as good as all the guys on the internet that are trying to sell you something. So with that, have anything else to add, Logan?
What's your top 3 bikes, past, present, under 350cc?
Under 3. Oh, that's Brandon. Brandon used to be a designer at Climb back in the day. That's how I met Brandon. Top 3 bikes. Let's see. Also has to have suspension enough to be comfortable for a little track fun. 350cc and less. Well, I don't think you can go wrong with a KTM 350 any year. And even the older ones, I mean, it was kind of funny because they kind of went through phases where they were torquey and then they got high RPM power and then they got torquey again and then they filled the whole thing in. They were always pretty good. And I didn't think the suspension was ever really, there was a year. I'd have to check my facts on this, but there was a year when they had the PDS shock with the elevated tower. Maybe the first year they were made. I have to look at a picture to see, but or maybe it was the damn first one that came with a linkage, and I was I was like, I want to ride PDS motocross bikes. And then any Yamaha 250F that has the current engine design, in other words, the intake on the front and the exhaust on the rear, those always had very good power for that stuff. And any 125 you can get your hands on is a good bike, right, Logan?
Yes.
Especially for the track.
Yeah.
Yep, because you can sing it. Okay. Any other questions? I think we're. Somebody says the Hodaka Dirt Squirt is a bike. Of course, that's Taco Mike. Just throwing gas on the fire. I was talking about how at Dirt Bike Test we're sitting on a landmine of content. We just need somebody to step on it and blow this thing up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With that, we're going to sign it all off. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Climb. Thanks to KTM. Where's KTM based at, Logan? You don't have to read it. Where are they based at?
Marietta,
What do they
California.
make? What do they make? What do they make?
KTMs.
Yeah. The best competition motorcycles. Ready to race. They make that. Yeah. And then what else do they do? Oh, what's the last line?
Powered by a distinct ready-to-race mentality.
The last line.
I
What
think
is
that's second to last, but
it's
last one is.
I'm looking over there. Global success is reflected in every product it produces and every move it makes. And since they sponsored this show, I think that was a good move.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You get to have your donut later. So, No, we did not tonight. So I haven't got my new supply yet.
Thanks, Kay.
I gotta deal with that. Okay, everybody, thanks a lot. We will talk to you in the near future. See you probably next Tuesday if I can make it back. And everybody have a great evening. Cheers.